Hello, everybody. We're going to be starting here in about 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Hey everybody, we're going to be starting here in about a minute and a half or so. So strap in. We're going to have some fun. Hello, everybody out there. Howdy, howdy. Hey, it's Mike Sokol from RV Electricity. We're going to be starting this in just a minute. Let me show you. We're going to actually be doing a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to take a couple of seconds out here to introduce Jonathan from CarGenerator, and he's just going to say hi. But don't ask any questions yet, because he'll be in the second half of this. Say hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
So did I spell your name correctly on there?
You got it exactly right.
All right. First part of this, I'm going to be covering the main segments, the main topics. Then Jonathan will jump in. We'll talk about CarGenerator products, and then he'll be able to answer the Q&A at the end. Anything, because he knows a lot more than just CarGenerator stuff. So this is a really, really good time to pick our brains, as it were. All right. So let me head back into my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Everybody should have me right now. Mary says, hi, Mike and Jonathan. Very good. Sure to rain. I recognize that guy from Mad Magazine. Camping with the Confers. I'm working with them on a project. New to the solar game, so be gentle. I like that. I'm always gentle. Good golly. Me Roast says, hi, Jonathan. How are you? All good, man. Look at this. We got people on here. This is very good stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me jump in, and I'm going to cover as much of this as we can. And then what I will do, since some of this I'm trying to maintain a certain amount of flow, we can go into the end. When you ask your questions, I may not answer them immediately, because first off, there's a 30-second delay going to YouTube. And secondly, I will try to combine these at the end. Anything that's really, really interesting, I'll put a little star next to your name so I can find you later. All right, so here we go. So let's chat off-grid power. Okay, so this is this boondocking power part 2. And here's the thing, you guys, everybody wants more power while boondocking. Now, I remember boondocking when I was, 10 years old in a Cox pop-up camper. And in fact, the only thing electrical I had in there was an AM radio with a couple of batteries. That was it, nothing else. Everything, Coleman gas lanterns, Coleman pump-up gas stove, all that other stuff. But nowadays, we expect to take all of our stuff with us. So we're going to be talking about power requirements for boondocking, and how we can do this mostly without generators, because we don't like generators. So I'm going to talk about DC and residential fridge power requirements, how to measure your power needs, why generators can be a problem, Solar power limitations, DC to DC chargers, basic theory of how all of that stuff works, solar generators, and from Jackery, EcoFlow, Blue Eddy, new hybrid power inverters, how they work. And then we're going to talk about specifically getting AC power from your vehicle using CarGenerator. And Jonathan, he's the expert on that. And then you can ask us whatever you want. How's that for a deal? Okay, so why do you need more power? Again, we want our modern conveniences. Microwave ovens, CPAP machines, computers, televisions, hair dryers. I've even had people ask me how to hook up power for a heated seat in their bidet in their RV. I am not kidding. So I've learned to get a poker face. Nothing surprises me anymore. One of the issues, though, is stock RV batteries, unless you really think about this and work it, that they can run out of power after only 1 or 2 nights of off-grid camping. And Jonathan sent me this. He said that over 75% of campers report inconvenience due to dead batteries while camping off-grid. And we all know what that's like. It is nobody happy with something like that. Now, your tow vehicle can produce 10 times the amount of power of an average 100-watt solar panel, which we'll talk about later. I'm trying to actually get some extra juice out of your car alternator for this. But right now, let's keep rolling here. So refrigerator power. How many of you guys, hands up, oh, you don't have to hands up. If you read my daily Substack articles, I've just hit 500 articles that I've published since November a year ago. So 500 of them. I got tons and tons. I got articles on everything you could think about. I just write all the time. I'm kind of like Frank Zappa, who would write songs all the time. I write articles all the time. Now, here's the deal. Refrigerator power. 120-volt residential refrigerators became popular in RVs, maybe 5-8 years ago. But they require an inverter, and the inverter itself can waste up to 20% of your battery power. Newest RV refrigerators use 12-volt DC compressors, what we call a DANFOSS, D-A-N-F-O-S-S compressor. I have a couple articles that shows you exactly how they work if you guys are interested. The things that's really interesting about them, first off, they're way more efficient than a standard compressor, AC compressor, 120 volt. They tend to use about 50% of the energy of a 120 volt compressor refrigerator, especially when you factor in the inverter. So if you could run 12 hours, if you could run your refrigerator 12 hours on an inverter, 120 volt refrigerator, you could run it 24 hours just hooking directly to 12 volts DC. So this is a big thing. So for instance, I have a Vitrofrigo 8 cubic foot fridge. I've had a single 100 amp hour lithium battery run that thing for 40 hours. But a 120 volt residential refrigerator, I killed the battery in 20 hours. And again, if you're just putting in not a lithium battery, if you're just using a flooded lead acid battery, it's going to be half of that even then. 8 or 10 hours and that thing's going to be dead. You won't have enough juice to run it. So this is a matter, you don't think about this when you're at home. You just plug it in, the end of the month, you pay your electric bill. Buy once, cry once kind of a thing. However, RVs, you got to really understand what your uses are because there's just not enough. So again, whoops, too many things here. Stop. There we go. Now, how much are you using? So if you have a smart battery shunt, you can easily monitor how many kilowatt hours of energy. Now, remember, you're not using watts of energy, you're using watt hours of energy. So basically, a watt hour is 1 watt of energy for 1 watt of power for 1 hour, okay? A kilowatt is 1,000 watts of energy for an hour, and that's what you need for your off-grid lifestyle. So Victron Energy, they make a whole bunch of smart shunts. If you read any of my other articles, you'll see that a 12-volt battery that has 100 amp hours of capacity somewhere is 1.2 kilowatts of energy. Got it? So now, things that you can do to power off-grid. Gasoline generators actually are okay, but they're loud, heavy, smelly. They require monthly, yearly maintenance. I have a whole bunch of Honda generators and a variety of other ones here. I've got stuff all over the place. I have found that if I don't start them up every 3 or 4 months, guess what? With gasoline in them, even with stable, they tend to get clogged up and I got to go clean a carburetor out. So they do require maintenance. Solar and wind power, they need sunshine and wind to operate, which can't be depended upon. Solar generators, actually those little ones, I've got a pile of them from Blue Eddy, from Southwire, from Jackery. They're a good solution with solar panels, but they can be expensive and heavy, but they're a good way to augment the power that you might already have in your RV. DC to DC chargers, that's the best way to fully charge your RV batteries while you're towing or down the road. And CarGenerator, is we'll talk about later, is really your best backup power solution while you're camping off grid in case the sun isn't shining. So here we go. Generators work, but I like this is AI generated. That is not me kissing my Honda generator. That is a AI generated. You like that? So so a couple of the issues. You've got to bring extra containers of gasoline. You'll need to buy a quiet inverter generator since contractor generators way too loud for camping. In fact, some places have time limits, 10 o'clock at night, no more or whatever. Many state campgrounds don't allow any generators to be run after 10 p.m. And they tend to be heavy and can be hard to start. For instance, I have a 5,000 watt Honda generator, or 7,000 watt Honda generator. I think that thing's 230 pounds without gasoline. My 3,000 watts like 110 or 115 pounds. This is why people get like a pair of the 2000s that are like 40 couple pounds and link them together. They're just heavy. There's just no way around it. Solar power limitations. Now, solar powers, they can greatly increase your off-grid camping times, but there's limitations to that. So you don't need enough. You need enough battery storage for when the sun isn't shining, say at night and on cloudy days. Each 100-watt solar panel, that's 100 watts of power, can generate around 300 to 400 watt hours of energy. That's energy if the sun is shining. Now, a 100 amp hour lithium battery stores 1.2 kilowatts of energy, as I noted. So here's the deal. If you have a 100 watt solar panel and you have a 100 amp hour lithium battery, and this thing is making 400 watt hours a day, and you have 1,200 watt hours of energy in the battery, it would take 3 to 4 days with 100 watts of solar panels to recharge a single 100 amp lithium battery if you're doing nothing else. Now, these are the numbers. This is the stuff I teach in my classes. So that means if you're going to do this successfully at all with solar panels, you need at least 400 watts of solar panels and at least 200 amp hours of lithium battery for weekend boondocking. And you probably want to double that if you can. I mean, there's just no other good way around it if you want to run electrical things. So, for instance, I've got a GeoPro 19-foot toy hauler. This has got the Master Volt system. It has a 400 amp hour lithium battery, a 600 watts of solar, and 3 kilowatt hybrid inverter. This is a great system, all perfectly integrated, works well. I really wanted 1,000 watts of solar, but I only have a 19-foot toy hauler. So they've got the whole roof crammed up with stuff. There's no more room. If I want more solar panels, I need to add stuff on the outside. There's just no other way around it. Does that make sense? And don't do this. So I've seen trailers, 2,000 watts of solar on the roof, 1,200 amp hours of lithium batteries, and a wind turbine for backup power at night. Wow. One thing that I'm a little scared of, because I've watched a few of these wind turbines, whipping around out there. They just have a post that's with a clamp on the trailer hitch on the front of this thing. Man, that thing's whipping around. If something goes wrong and that comes flying off, it's going to kill somebody. So, I worry about things like that. I'm not just an electrical engineer, I'm a mechanical electrical. So I do both of these things. I know how much energy is involved in spinning things out there. Someday I'll tell you when I blew up a gyroscope in my hand. That's another story. Okay, another good way to do this is something we call DC to DC chargers. So you don't need to totally depend on solar to recharge your RV batteries, but you really don't get much power from that 7-way trailer plug. I don't care what the guy that sold you that RV tells you. You can only get maybe 5 amps out of it. Maybe if you're lucky, maybe 60 watts. The other thing, and you need a lot more than that. Plus, you cannot fully charge your lithium batteries to 100% state of charge from your tow vehicle alternator directly because the output voltage is too low. So you need about 14.5 volts to completely charge lithium batteries. Most of the time you're in the 13.6, 13.8 volts. You'll never be able to fully charge it. However, adding a DC to DC charger lets you fully recharge your RV batteries while you're driving. Now, this is a great thing. When you pull in, if you've got a full charge, then you're happy. And especially if if you have a 12-volt DC refrigerator, your ice cream is good, your beer is cold. I am not a big proponent of driving an RV with propane running in a refrigerator. I've seen way too many fires. I know people do this all the time. I just won't do it. I've seen things blow up and catch on fire, and that's one of my other little side gigs here. I really, really like to, take care, to make things safe. Now, DC to DC charger brands, I've got ones from Red Arc and Renogy. Victron has never sent me one, but I think Victron's really, really good at this. I don't know why they keep ignoring me. I keep sending them stuff to say, talk to me about this, show me some stuff, but So if you do this, you can get up to 50 amperes of charging from your alternator battery while you're driving into your alternator, into your RV battery while you're driving down the road. Which is really great. So it will boost the alternator voltage to about 14.5 volts, whatever it needs. It also will limit the alternator current to prevent damage. So one of the things that you do not want to do is just go hook a new lithium battery. Let's say you've got a Sprinter. You don't want to hook that lithium battery in to the same right to your alternator directly in the motor, because it will draw way too much current and it will burn out your alternator in your RV, in your Sprinter in a couple of weeks. And how do I know this? I had somebody do this and then he can't complain to me. And I said, I told you not to hook it up directly. And he said, but the guy at the shop said it would just plug in. And I said, no, that's not true. We don't believe anything that anybody tells you. My father, my dearly departed father, would always say, the guy at Radio Shack told him this or that or the other thing. And I would say, Dad, you've got to understand what I do for a living. You know what I do. He says, but this guy at Radio Shack, he acted like he really knew. And I said, he's just a sales guy. He'll tell you anything to sell you that stuff. You got to listen to me here, Dad. So you do need, if you're going to do this, and these work great, you need heavy wiring and what we call Anderson connectors. Whoops. And they will look like this. They'll be these big honking guys here. Only be the size of your hand, like that plugs together. And you'll need to run heavy wiring going back from the alternator of your tow vehicle to the hitch, where you can then plug these things together. So this is a quick disconnect. Solar generators, they can help. And I've done experiments with solar generators. I've got Jackery, Southwire, EcoFlow, Bluetti. I've got everything. These guys are all sending me things to play with. They are a great way to augment your RV battery power, but they all need to be recharged at some point. So solar panels can cost as much as the solar generator itself, and they must be carried separately. I actually have a, what is it, a 3,000 watt Jackery unit. They sent me, let me see if I remember correctly, 1,200 watts of solar panels. I mean, it's a lot of solar panels to set up and deploy. They're not supposed to go on the roof. This is you send them out in your yard. That's actually pretty cool stuff. But again, more to carry around, more to set up, more to steal, all of that. And finally, before I introduce Jonathan, I want to talk a little bit about hybrid inverters. So a hybrid inverter, it's a standard pass-through inverter can only pick power from your shore power coming in or from the battery. It does one or the other. It can't do both. But these hybrid inverters, they mix shore power and battery power together, and you can set them. This is actually really, really cool. So you can set, so I have something in my unit called a Combi Master Control. So I can go in there and say, hey, I would like to have a, so much going on here in terms of maximum of 10 amperes from the power outlet. And that converts into 100 amps going into the battery. Then if I need more power than that, it draws the power from the battery inside of the RV. So it sets a maximum current that you want to have. This is great for when you're mooch docking or whatever. I've used this with CarGenerator products because you can set a max of say 8 amps AC input from a 1,000-watt car generator. It will then, the RV batteries will supply the extra amps, and whenever it doesn't need as much, the car generator charges the batteries back up. I think it's just a match made in heaven for this kind of stuff. Now, hybrid inverter power flow. This is what happens. You can see, so the battery is bidirectional. These things allow you to bring in solar panel or a generator or utility power, and then it intermixes it, and this is a two-way flow in and out of the battery. So when it's got more power than it needs, it charges in the battery. When you've got less power than your RV needs, it flows from the battery into the inverter and then powers all your electrical appliances. Does that make sense? Make sense? I think so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to welcome Jonathan. And I'm going to get him on screen, and he's going to tell him a little bit about himself and his business. And then we're going to start talking more about that stuff. So here we go. Jonathan, take it away. Who are you? What do you do?
Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan with CarGenerator, and I created a product that turns your car into a generator. So a lot of people know a gas generator and use a gas generator, but a lot of people just don't really want the hassles of a gas generator. So I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I ran a tech company for 20 years and sold it. My wife and I bought an Airstream, and we started traveling off grid. And when we first got it, I was really excited because it had 5 big solar panels on the roof. And I thought, wow, we can go anywhere and do anything we want. But then we kept pressing the cappuccino button, and lo and behold, we ran out of power. We found ourselves always without enough power. And so we learned that I needed additional power. So then I found a way to create power for my car, and that we could simply start our car engine and pull power out of our car. And then we had a really bad event happen in our home. We had a big ice storm, and we had no power for 3.5 days. So I used an early version of this idea to power our home. So our furnace ran, our fridges ran, our sump pump ran, our internet and TV and different things like that ran for 3.5 days, 83 hours until the power came back on. And they used about a half a tank of gas, and that was with a Toyota Highlander hybrid in that case. So we discovered that your car is a really great way to get backup power. Essentially, it's 90% of a generator sitting right there in your driveway. You've got a great engine that's clean and quiet and very efficient. You've got a great gas tank that's always got fresh gas. So all we needed to do is get the inverter in a weatherproof case that would be easy for people to use. And so now we've grown, and people use this for power outages for their home, for camping off grid. We're really finding now that so many people bought RVs over the last couple of years that there's campgrounds are full. Wherever you want to go, a lot of times the campgrounds are just full. There's no place to plug in. And a lot of people are now thinking about going off grid and being able to camp off grid. And honestly, why not? I mean, if you have the right amount of power and you have a way to create power and you've already got water in your tanks there, why not be off grid? You can camp anywhere you want. So that's really the market that we serve. And a lot of people love solar, they love lithium. And then they just find that they want a backup solution for the odd times that they need power and they don't want to drag a big 100-pound generator around all summer. I was actually at an event at the Airstream factory in around last fall, and there was people there that had a 30-foot Airstream, and they had a giant generator in the back. It was 7,000 watts. So I looked at that, and it was great. Like, you can power everything in your trailer, but it took 3 guys to unload it. So there's a better way, and that's what CarGenerator really is.
Okay, so let's go to the PowerPoint presentation, and then you should be able to talk over this.
Dealer. With that, call your
Okay.
vehicle dealer and hit the parts department, give them your phone number or your VIN number, your vehicle ID number, and they'll tell you what the alternator rating is. And then basically, if it's 200 amps as an example, half of that you get at engine idle. That gives 100 amps times 12 volts is 1200 watts. Now, if you have a diesel truck, you can also, on many of them, you can up idle. So there's a button or there's a sequence of buttons or a switch you can click, and there's a button you can click, and it will increase your idle revs, so you'll get more power. So the 1,000 watt car generator can recharge a 100 amp lithium battery in just a couple hours. Really, it's a backup for your solar panels. A lot of times people have solar panels, but then if the sun doesn't shine, you're stuck.
Okay.
So,
Okay, Jonathan.
yeah,
I pushed a kill button accidentally, and
okay,
we didn't get sound for the last part of it. So I'm
okay,
going to back up. Let's have take a mulligan on that. How's that
and
sound?
sure, I'll do it.
Okay, so where should we begin? I think probably where we did this is talk briefly about we were. I'm making sure here I can see all my meters here moving. Yeah, this is from both of us at the Alumapalooza 2023 convention out there at the Airstream factory. It's amazing, but you got to have an Airstream to show up, I think.
Yep.
But that was a great thing. I've taught classes out there several times already. In fact, that's where I first met Jonathan, and I said, "Hey, what's that crazy thing that you've got up there? I want to know more about it." Right?
Yep.
So now let's talk a little bit about how much power you need, what kind of amperage you need for your alternator to run a specific size car generator. So
So
take
here's
it away, Jonathan. Redo.
Yeah, no problem. So it's a really easy calculation. I don't suggest you Google it. I suggest that you actually just call your vehicle dealer and hit the parts department and give them your phone number or your VIN number, your vehicle identification number, and they will tell you what the amp rating of your alternator is. So if it's a 200 amp alternator, you get half of that at idle. So that's, in this case, 100 amps times 12 volts. You get around 1200 watts. Now, if you have a diesel truck, you can also up idle. So that means there's a sequence or a button that you can press and it will increase your RPM, your engine RPM slightly, and you'll get a lot more power. So really that lets you get a lot of power out of your truck, and that's how you can figure out which car generator you want. Most of 90% of what we sell is the 1000 watt car generator, but we also have a 1500 watt, a 2000 watt, and a 3000 watt model. Really, a 1000 watt car generator is a very simple way that you can recharge a 100 amp hour lithium battery in just a couple hours. Now, if you have a trailer, you've got lithium, you're off grid, everything is great, you're in an amazing campsite, and then you're stuck in your trailer and it's going to rain for 2 days and you want to be able to use things in your trailer. Car generator is 100% weatherproof so that you can do that. So it's a really great backup for solar panels. Just start your truck or your tow vehicle and run it, and it will provide backup power when the sun doesn't shine. So there's no maintenance required, and it's only 11 pounds. So anybody can lift it, move it, or handle it. You can jump to the next slide, Mike.
Okay, one thing I just want to note on here, you can see it comes with the big alligator clips, as it were.
Yep.
I've also got the version that I've got the ones that bolt onto the battery, and then it actually has a Anderson connector in the middle, which makes for a little more secure connection. I'm all about connections, as you know me.
It sure does. The 1000 watt model comes with booster clamps like this, alligator clamps, but you can order the Quick Connect system, which is what we sell, that gives you a nice little cable, heat-proof cable that bolts in your engine compartment, specially engineered, that you can basically just plug in, and you'll get, makes it really easy without even have to use the alligator clamps.
Right.
So
Anybody can hook it up. Yep.
Yep, 1500, 2000, and 3000 watts don't come with alligator clamps because you can't transfer safely that amount of power. So you just use the plug-in in that case.
Okay, so now basically, I think we've talked about this a whole lot. Basically, this is not going to be something that you're running 24/7 to do a whole bunch of stuff, but it's a really fantastic system, I think, for backups, for raining, cloudy days when solar doesn't do anything. And I know that I've done experiments with it. It's compatible with EcoFlow, Jackery, Bluetti, Goals, Zero solar generators. I think you've done this with, you have an EcoFlow, right? I believe.
Yeah, I got a Delta EcoFlow Pro, and it's a really easy backup plan that you can basically take car generator, start your car, no solar panels required, and then just plug it into any of those kinds of battery generators or solar generators and recharge it. And it makes it really simple. Or the people that have solar, if it's nighttime or it's raining and you want a backup plan in your pocket that only weighs 11 pounds, then no gas cans to store, this is exactly what car generator is designed for. You can
Okay.
fill up those things again.
So now I'm gonna put a question up here for you right now. So Andrew Wolf says, what I meant to say, can car generator be used to charge regular flooded cell batteries, flooded lead acid, or does it have to be lithium?
That's a great question, and car generator works perfectly with any type of batteries that you have in your RV, because car generator just mimics exactly what it would be like to plug into your campsite. So you just simply plug in your shore power extension cord. To use CarGenerator, you basically start your tow vehicle, hang CarGenerator on the front, attach it, and then plug into your shore power vehicle, into your shore power cord for your trailer, and it will recharge the batteries. It doesn't matter if they're lead acid, lithium, flooded, or any kind, even if it's gel batteries, I guess, doesn't matter.
It doesn't care. Yeah.
It doesn't care. And it does it exactly the way that the factory designed it or the way it's supposed to. And you don't need to worry about anything else. It just works that way. The other big bonus is that all of a sudden, all of your outlets inside your trailer become active. So you can also, like everything, in some trailers, they have an inverter special outlets, only certain ones work. But when CarGenerator is running, all of your outlets become active. So you can charge your cell phones, recharge your laptops, watch TV, do anything that runs within the power that is provided.
Yeah. Okay. So now one more here. Let me see. Okay. So this is ultralight, 11 pounds. Let me post. There's another question here for Anna, Jonathan. And I may be able to answer this better than Jonathan. So he says, I have a 1,000-watt car generator using F-150 with auto stop technology. When I run car generators, should I use the auto stop or turn it off? Guess what I have? I've got an F-150 with the auto stop on it.
That's right, you do.
So I do. So I can tell you, now if you have an F-150, what they call the power boost one, with the built-in inverter and everything, that automatically starts and stops the engine. But the one with the auto stop technology, the basic one that doesn't have the built-in inverter stuff on it, if you don't really want to be letting that go into auto stop mode, because it will not restart this if the battery gets low. I've experimented with this a little bit. So basically there's a little button on the dashboard. It's kind of a thing that these guys created so that when you stop at a stoplight for a long time, it shuts the engine down. As soon as you touch the gas pedal or wiggle the steering wheel or move your foot on the brake, it starts the engine up very, very quickly. But it does not appear to have something that will auto start and stop the engine like a real hybrid would. I'll have to do a deeper experiment on that. But my gut feel says no. That you need to take it out of this auto shutdown mode because it is not an auto start mode. Okay, Jonathan, you want to finish some more of your bullet points here?
Yep. So the thing about CarGenerator, it is a pure sine wave inverter in a weatherproof enclosure. Some people say, "Oh, hey, I can make an inverter. I can get one from Harbor Freight and hook it up." And to you, I say, "That's fantastic. Rock on. That's great." But really, CarGenerator is a safe and really user-friendly way that anyone can do this without having any technical knowledge, without worrying about doing anything wrong. You can basically, if you can attach booster clamp cables or plug in or quick connect plug, you can use a CarGenerator. Start your car and you've got power. So it's that easy. It's 11 pounds. There's no maintenance. There's actually less emissions. A lot of people have wondered about if it's eco-friendly. And CarGenerator is very eco-friendly because your car, every single car out there, generally speaking, has thousands of dollars worth of emissions controls in it. And
right, you've got catalytic converters, all that stuff. Yes.
Yeah, fuel injection, all kinds of things. And a standard generator is a primitive engine. It's loud, it's smelly, it's not really, they could never put that in there. So it's much cleaner. And a really important thing is it uses about the same amount of fuel, like a portable generator versus your car running at idle uses around the same amount of fuel. And if you go to cargenerator.com and you click on videos, you'll see some great videos we've shot that actually show you that. We use a simple, there's a thing called an OBD scanner you can get from Amazon, plug it into your car, and you can see the fuel rate, how much fuel it's using. So it uses about the same amount of gas, just with a lot less hassles. And it's fully rain and weatherproof. So the downside of CarGenerator if you are the person that's going to go camping in Florida in July with double air conditioners, CarGenerator is not the solution for you. Honestly, in that situation, I don't want any motor running. I don't want a generator running. I don't want my truck running. Really just go to a campground that's got power and plug in, because it's not great hearing any motor running 24 hours around the clock. So that's where CarGenerator really fits in.
Now, one of the things that I've been working on as an experiment, because even though I can get 4 or 5 hours of air conditioner runtime with my 400 amp hour battery, that's all, it takes a lot to recharge it. But I've been working on experimenting with something called a swamp cooler. And basically, it only draws about 50 or 60 watts. It's a motor. You keep water in it. And this actually only works if you're in a dry environment. If you're in Maryland, you've got fairly low humidity, you can use it. But if you're in a place with a lot of humidity, don't try to lose this in the swamps down in Louisiana, because it'll make it rain inside of your RV. But there are yeah.
No, I was just going to say, you brought a really good point. I wanted to emphasize. So the hybrid power converters, why they're so cool, is that if you have a trailer and you've got lithium batteries and you're using it for air conditioning, if you have a hybrid power converter, instead of chewing up all like Mike can run his air conditioner for whatever, 4 hours or 5 hours, because it uses a lot of power. If you run CarGenerator, it will be constantly refilling power back into the batteries, so you can really extend the runtime of your batteries in your RV if you are using air conditioning. So it's a great solution if you do have at Victron, they call it Power Share. Other places call it hybrid power converters. So those are all the different things. You can really get a lot more bang for your buck out of your lithium batteries when you're off grid.
So now here's another question for you. Fairwinds RV says, I'm not a car mechanic kind of guy, but I thought idling a diesel engine wasn't good for it. Any thoughts on this? What about diesel engines? I know gas engines don't care. The Ford F-150 Power Boost rates it to idle for like 85 hours to run their built-in inverter. Do you have any more info on diesels?
I sure do. In fact, I own a diesel vehicle. And so the most important thing with diesel, and there's lots of people who will argue, and the kids at soccer, 3 hours or 2 hours while you're stuck in a traffic jam. And the truth is that idling is a fact of modern life. So Ford, they have the F-250 and F-350 diesel vehicles. Those have a built-in 2,000 watt inverter that's rated to run for 85 hours. And so there's so many examples out there of diesel vehicles that are running. What it really comes down to, the most important part of it, is something called the DPF, the diesel particulate filter. This filter at idle takes around 10 to 12 hours to fill up. So if you start your diesel vehicle and you leave it running at idle for 10 to 12 hours, it will fill up the diesel particulate filter. So what we recommend is after about 8 hours of using the CarGenerator, if it's a diesel vehicle, is disconnect it and take your vehicle for a drive, and it'll for 15 minutes the normal way, and it'll clear out the filter and you're good to go. So, and the true fact is that most people use this for 2 to 3 hours to refill their trailer batteries and then shut it off. They don't, you don't really, if it's an emergency and your house is without power, then for sure run it around the clock. But if you're camping, most people just use it just for a couple hours. You really don't need to run it constantly. So that's and the last thing I'll mention is go in any city and look around at the city and contractor vehicles, and you'll notice that they're idling. Ford actually published a study with diesel vehicles where a contractor would drive 50 miles and idle for 6 hours per day. And they did that for 100 days. And the point of the study was to say that you need to change the engine oil and do maintenance a little bit more often, because you need to factor in the mileage itself will not tell the story. You need to factor in the engine hours as well. So, and one last fun fact, you can go and get an OBD scanner from Amazon, and you can plug it into your vehicle, and you'll see how many idle hours you already have. And you'll probably see that you've already got thousands of idle hours on your
Whoops.
vehicle as it stands. So
Whoops, I'm pushing too many buttons. I'm sorry. I'm pushing buttons.
That's okay.
I'm going crazy. Let me show you a couple of things here that I've done. And then Jonathan and I will get on screen. And man, I got a pile of questions to answer. Are you up for it, Jonathan?
I am. I love it.
I know he took a potty break before this. I've got my big bottle of water here. We'll do this. This is my experiments I did when I had my little Nissan Frontier. I used a 1,000-watt car generator hooked onto this, and I was able to completely recharge my Jackery Explorer 1000 from 0 to 100% in less than 90 minutes. I think probably like 75 minutes or so. So that's one really good trick that you can do. What I then did, believe it or not, I took this to run a 10-bank cellular charger so that 10 people could recharge their cell phone at the same time if you're in an emergency situation like a tornado area. So I'm coming up with ways to keep people's cell phones charged. So that's just one thing, but this works perfectly fine with that. You can see this is the one that has the quick disconnect on it. And again, Jonathan was talking about it. You can use it to recharge Jackery, Lion Energy, Blue Eddy, or EcoFlow while it supplies extra power. And so he was talking about, this is exactly what he was talking about. You can leave that plugged into your RV. You can plug the car generator into your car, hook the two things together, and it will provide makeup power. So
I'll also mention, I just wanted to point out, Mike, that some people look at this and they go, wow, why would you bother doing that? Why would you get, a solar generator and plug it into your RV? And the reason is some people just don't want to build the whole lithium batteries into their RV. They just want a really simple solution that really plug and play. And honestly, these solar and battery generators do exactly that. You don't need to upgrade the batteries in your RV. You don't need to do anything else. You can basically plug it into your RV and get the benefits of lithium without having to take everything all apart, change everything out. It's more efficient to do that probably, and it's a change, but that's why, because it's really plug and play. And if you're the person that changes RVs on a more frequent basis, you're not investing a lot of money in your existing. I met a guy that had put 2,000 watts of solar on his RV, massive batteries, and did all these kinds of things, and then he eventually sold the RV. So, those solar generators are really a great way to just preserve that investment and take it with you for other purposes.
And I will also note what I do is I will grab my Jackeries and I will use them for different things. I don't know, it's not just the RV. So I've got my party pad, we call it, that we built in the backyard last year, is too far away from the house to even run an extension cord to. But I want to run my pellet smoker. Guess what you can do with one of these, a Jackery 1,000-watt unit will run that pellet smoker all day. Plus run my little Vitrifrigo portable refrigerator. So I've got cold beer. I've got smoked meats. I'm feeling like the king of my party pad back there. And I haven't even pulled an extension. I would have to put 200 feet of extension cord out to do that. So so I also used it a couple of times last winter when it was cold and nasty to go start my snowblower. Because I'm sitting there pulling on this thing. I think this got a motor on it. Do I really want to push just a couple hundred feet through a snow drift to get it over to my house where I can plug it in and spin a little thing up on it? I said, heck, man, I got a Jackery unit. Took it out, plugged it in, started it right up. So you can't do that if your battery is stuck inside of your RV, but you can do it if your battery's portable. So here's a picture. Also, this was from Illumapalooza, I believe, right?
Yeah, the Airstream rally. Yep.
So again,
that's one of our customers there, and that's with an Airstream, and that's the Airstream unit. You can see it's kind of a glossy silver, and it's got a cool cutout. So.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, and then we're going to go answer questions. So one of the deals I made with Jonathan was that you guys can get a special deal. So if you click the buy now thing, and I'll show you this later when we come back, You guys can get 150 to $400 off a car generator plus, say purchase by April 30th, 2024. Yeah, there's also a 5-year premium warranty. Is that still on there, or did I misspeak?
No, no, you got that exactly right. That's actually a benefit for your viewers is that you get, if you purchase before April 30th, you get a 5-year premium extended warranty. It's a really great warranty that covers anything that happens with your car generator, and that you get that for free if you buy before April 30th. So it's a really sweet deal to do.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do, let's make sure I've got my audio on. I haven't clicked any buttons. Hello, say hello, Jonathan.
Hello, I'm on.
Okay, so everything's all working. So, wow, we got a bunch of questions here. So let's start
Let's do
scrolling
it.
through these things. We'll ignore the people telling me I screwed up the audio. You know I'm a professional audio engineer, and here I pushed the wrong button, and I'm not monitoring it because I don't have my producer back there. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at... Let me just make sure I got all my questions here. Hi, Mike and Jonathan, blah, blah, blah. We got people from California everywhere. St. Augustine. And so Les says, Victron is the best for monitoring systems through the Bluetooth connection to the smartphone. I got to agree. Victron's pretty darn good at this. Wouldn't you say so?
They're great. It's a great, and that's what we build into our car generators that have Bluetooth now. It uses the Victron app. So if you have Victron already, it's a no-brainer. And Car Generator works with all Victron systems. So if you have a Victron, any kind of Victron solar controller or inverters or any kind of systems, they work really well with the Victron systems. It's a no-brainer.
Okay, so let's see. I'm looking through here. Okay. So the roadless traveler, whatever that means, I guess you go off-road. Mike, we should rekindle our conversation about the 2 kilowatt Pro Power system and its interesting issues. There are some interesting things. The thing that I have found, as good as these car manufacturers are building tow vehicles and such, I don't think any of these guys ever camp. I'm pretty sure. And so there's some weird things that happen. I had the 7 kilowatt F-150 that's all set up. That was a beautiful system. But most people, a lot of them opted for I guess it's a 2.4 kilowatt, and apparently it does some strange things. So I am not sure it's pure sine wave. I am not sure exactly what it is. I've asked Ford to loan me one that I would go look at it. If they would, I would go play with it. I don't know enough yet. So you know me. If I don't know, I'm not going to guess. But I had a few people sending me in some data from the field that looked a little scary. So
Actually, something I just thought about, Mike, that I should mention for people out there. If anybody here on the broadcast has a hybrid vehicle is the world's most efficient and best backup generator. Because what happens is, I have a hybrid vehicle and I have a diesel vehicle as well. But the hybrid vehicle just basically starts up and fills up the lithium battery and then shuts off the gas engine. And we pull out power from the lithium battery through the DC to DC converter. But basically, we can pull power out continuously, but the gas engine only starts up for the length of time that's needed and then it shuts off. Whereas a traditional gas generator just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. So I just want to point that out. If you have a hybrid vehicle, they are the most amazing. And Car Generator, by the way, works with all vehicles: gas, diesel, hybrid, pure electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid vehicles. It works across all of them very, very well.
Okay, so now Les, he's talking about DC to DC chargers. So he says, I installed a 40 amp Renogy DC to DC charger connected, and he used 4-gauge cables from the F-250 alternator. And I think that's a good size. In theory, you could probably get away with 6-gauge, but man, that's a long run. So you know, you want to reduce voltage drops. You do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's got to have, you probably just put a 100 amp Anderson connector in there and run 4-gauge across. It's a little tricky to do. I'm probably going to do it on my F-150 just for grins.
I'll mention one other thing that you can do is measure voltage drop. So that's the important thing, is measure voltage drop under load. So you basically hook that up, do everything you want, make sure your lithium batteries or whatever you got in the trailer are run down pretty hard, and then run it at the capacity you expect it to be, and measure your voltage at your alternator, and then measure your voltage at your RV just before it goes into the DC to DC converter, not the RV batteries, but before it goes into the DC to DC converter, and see how much voltage you're losing. And that's what you want to watch for, to make sure that you're not losing too much voltage. You don't want to heat up the wires, etc.
Right. Now, the thing that I will note that I've seen happen a couple of times, where they put the DC to DC charger in under hood of the vehicle and then run the long wire back there, and then it doesn't compensate for the voltage drop and won't fully charge the battery. So that DC to DC charger wants to be in your RV close to your battery, right? And then
That's true.
of course, and then what you need to do is have a proper size fuse coming off of your battery, feeding the wire going back to your connection. So where the fuse is, it needs to be close to the battery. Where the DC to DC charger, it needs to be close to the alternator. Your DC to DC charger needs to be close to the house battery in your RV, especially once
That's a very good point.
Does it make sense?
That's a very good point, Mike. Yeah. So measure the difference in voltage from the start to finish, to make sure you're not losing too much voltage.
Exactly, because lithium batteries are very, very sensitive to charging voltage.
Yep.
They just are. Okay, so wait a minute here. Nola says, I think they corrected themselves. I have two Battlebourne 1000 amp lithium battery. I think they meant 100. I think they mean 100 amp hour lithium batteries. The Airstream battery box is small. I have no choice but to use that box. My question is, given the SP gauge, should... Okay, so Nola, did you finish your conversation? 100 amp, sorry. Okay, so 100 amp. I don't see where you finished your thought. It can only let you type in so much. If you want to, Nola, if you want to give me a recapsuled version of it, we'll try to come back to it. I'm not sure what you're asking. Okay, so let's keep going here. CarGenerator.
Terry Brown's got a question about car generators connected to your diesel truck. Concerns it's a 24 volt system.
Where's this at?
I see just above NOLA housing wrote, or maybe that's further down. So yeah, that was, I see here in the conversation. So Terry Brown writes, any concerns of car generators connected to a diesel truck? Is it a 24 volt system? If you have a diesel truck that's a 24 volt system, car generator won't work for you.
No,
it's not going to be.
And none of your American
that must be
ones,
like a military truck or something.
Well, a semi truck will be 24 volt.
Exactly.
Do not do what one of my readers did. They got themselves a F-250 or whatever the heck it was. They bought a second battery and they hooked it up in series with their existing 12 volt battery instead of in parallel. And they put 24 volts through the entire electrical system and burned up everything in this. Everything. Yeah. It's a big difference between series and parallel. Now, here's another thing. When I was a kid, guess what I did when I was 16 years old? I worked in a truck shop rebuilding diesel engines. I actually know what goes on inside of like a big Cummins, a big Mack truck engine, any of those things. And I know they're 24 volt. So I've done a lot of weird things in my life. I know the crankshaft is so big that you have to have a crane to drop it in these things. This is not like a little car, where you could just pick the stuff up. Man, those things are heavy. I was mostly cleaning oil pans and getting parts, but there you go. Let's keep looking here. Missed the part. There we go.
Someone is asking about how about for older motorhomes? I have a 95
Yeah, I saw
Ford
that.
Travel.
Let me see if I can get that one up here.
Putting in an inverter with a custom lithium battery. I'm not sure what the question is on that one.
Let me see.
You just need to.
Yeah, I saw that here a second ago. Here we go, this one. So how about for older motorhomes? I have a 95 Ford Travel that I will be taking out the converter and putting in an inverter with a custom lithium battery pack, approximately 1,350 amp hours of capacity. Yeah, that would actually be a really, really good system for this. However, be warned that you need a lot of those converters, they will draw a lot of juice to charge the batteries. So one of the things that I discovered real quick with my unit, because I have a 400 amp hour battery that wants to charge at like 260 amps or so, it wants to draw like 28 amperes from the 30 amp cord. So, I'm doing my due diligence. I run the batteries down low, because I'm running the air conditioner for hours. I said, I'm just going to pull my little 2,000 watt Honda out here and go. And I've metered it all up, because I've got voltmeter on, an amp meter, a logging thing. And I start it up and I turn it on and it goes 10 amps, 15 amps, 16 amps, 18 amps, 20 amp, blip, and stops it. And I went, holy crap. You mean I've got to go pull out a 3,000 watt generator just so I can charge this battery? And I said, I remembered that the guys from the Master Volt people, they flat out said, there's a button that you can go on there to limit the charge rate. And I went, okay, let me see if I can go find that. Sure enough, click that button down, set it for like a maximum of like 15 amps. And then all of a sudden, the generator worked. And then I tried it with CarGenerator. I set it down to a maximum of like 8 amps, 7 or 8 amps, I think, for the 1,000 watt unit, and it worked. So even when you have these massive battery banks, and you've got like a big honking charger, you won't be even able to plug that into your house power for charging the batteries unless there's a way to bring down that charging capacity. Now, it's still going to take you longer to do it, but at least you can do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that answers that really well. Definitely, I would, if I was doing that, I would get a hybrid power converter, definitely, or a Victron or something like that, because that's exactly, it'll just manage that. You don't even, honestly, you don't even need a car generator in that case. The built-in, I would just build it right into there. You've got your alternator, you're going to do your lithium battery bank, you're going to have the power converter, do it all inside the RV. There's no need to have an external, our market is really for people that you've got a separate tow vehicle and you've got your trailer, which are separate entities. That's really where a car generator makes a lot more sense.
Okay, so Terry asks another interesting, Terry Brown. It's a statement. It's an advantage to have the full 1,000 watts, whereas 10 solar panels don't usually provide 100% efficiency. Man, he is right there, isn't he?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Unless you've got them tilted and there's no clouds in the sky, and remember, a 100 watt panel is only 100 watts, no cloud in the sky, sun directly over top of you, and away you go. And of course, how much power will you be getting next week in the solar eclipse? Now this is not a trick question. You get none. Any of you guys going? You going to see that? I'm going. I'll be up in near Buffalo. I'll be up in New York at one of my friends' houses. I'm not paying $1,000 a night for a room with a 3-night minimum. But I'm going up there. All I've got to do is bring the wine and the bourbon, and I think that's my contribution.
Hey, Mike, I'm not too far from Niagara. Maybe we'll meet up down there. Have a glass of wine together. That sounds great.
We could. So Andrew Wolf. I'm sorry. Here's another question. Are you ready for another question, Jonathan?
Yeah, I noticed that Terry Brown wrote another question about the two 12-volt batteries as well. Oh yes, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Does it work with any alternator?
It sure does. Yep. As long as you work within the size, if you just check what your alternator rating is, and then you get about half of that at idle. Now, here's for the win. Here's the trick question about electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. They have no alternator. What they have instead, they have something called a DC to DC converter. So what happens is that in any electric or hybrid vehicle, the power that powers your 12-volt systems, like your seat heaters and your wipers and all that, is not the 400 volts from the lithium battery, or the 300, 400 volts from the big battery. You don't want that running through your seat heater. Everything is converted through something called a DC to DC converter. So that basically is what provides this power, and that If you want to find out what the capacity of your DC to DC converter is, that's where you could size how much you want to take out. The other thing I'll add about any of the electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles, you want to be conservative on how much power you pull out. If they tell you that it's a 2,000 watt, you don't want to pull all 2,000 watts. You want to leave a lot of margin for safety in there, because those DC to DC converters are very expensive to replace them if you overload it. So we're always very conservative in our approach. You never want to overload that. So that's the question.
So now here's another really interesting one. It's more of a comment and a question. In Wisconsin, the state park generators are prohibited except for medical exception, but idling is starting to be prohibited with anti-idling laws. There's some weird mojo stuff happening in some of these states. So for instance, I know that, 2 years ago, California said they were going to eliminate portable generators. You were not going to be allowed to buy one. You couldn't bring them into the state, yada, 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 yada. Then all of a sudden, California figured out we can't make sure that the power is up. They were giving you a $300 rebate if you would buy your own portable generator for your house. Then they came through and they said, well, people are hooking up wrong. We will put one of those generator interface meters on your house for free. They came in, plugged them in, and gave you a cord to plug into the generator that they gave you a $300 rebate on that 2 years before it said was not going to be allowed. Crazy, huh?
Super fun. By the way, I'll just mention that in terms of the state parks, check with your local regulations. I will say that for sure, just check and see what the local thing is. I will say for sure that your car will definitely be quieter and cleaner than most of the portable generators out there. And the other thing, I would also look at the anti-idling bylaws. So most of the anti-idling bylaws, there is exceptions for two things: states of emergency, and for if it's used for what's called PTO, which is power takeoff. So if the vehicle is being used for power takeoff, just look and see what your local rules and regulations are. If it's being used for power takeoff, many times there's an exception for that. What they're trying to avoid is like my neighbor who goes and starts her car and leaves it running for an hour before she goes out to go drive away to her tennis match or who knows, whatever. They're trying to, I think that's really the intent of what they're trying to do. From my actual experience, because we camp and we use our car for power, many times I've asked my neighbors, by the way, I just said we're running our car to generate power. Did you even notice it? And most people have not even noticed that we've been running our car or idling it at all. So there's that, just for reference.
Right. And I think a lot of the times the anti-idling laws that I've seen has been for diesel semi-trucks that are on docks. Yeah. And they don't, because, this is before there was a lot of emission control. Diesel still makes a lot of stinky stuff. And, you don't want that. And a lot of these guys never shut their diesel engines off. So that had to do with, like, for instance, a hospital entrance. They don't want to have the ambulance sitting there idling, dumping fumes into the doors. I think that was the primary push behind that. Okay, wait a second. Okay, so Fairwinds RV just made a comment. He says, we use an EcoFlow system for that same reason, like you were talking about before together. We can disconnect it all in about 5 minutes. Yeah, this is pretty quick to set up, I think.
Yep.
He wants the discount code. I'm going to kill our faces here for a second. They want the discount code. Let me put the discount code.
Yeah, you should go back to that slide. Go back to that slide, Mike.
I will. Okay. Can you still hear me? Can you still see me? Okay. So we'll leave that car generator deal up on there. So there's the discount thing. That'll take you right in.
And you get the 5-year premium extended warranty at no additional cost. So that's kind of
right. Cool. It's also compatible with smart plug. I've done a lot of testing on smart plugs. I'm a consultant to a bunch of different industries. They let me test stuff till I got to tell you, smart plug is an incredible add-on for this. I believe that all new Airstreams, in fact, have that as OEM. I actually did a test and built a machine that plugged it in and out for 50,000 cycles. 50,000 cycles, and it was still just as good after 50,000 insertions. That thing is a beast.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. We'll leave that up, and we'll keep talking here.
We got some more questions, I think.
We have more questions here. Let's see. Okay. So
we have lots of great questions.
Man, we got a lot of great questions here. You want to just pick one and say it? What do you got?
Yeah. Let me touch on some of these right now. EcoFlow systems. Someone asked about or mentioned about 2 batteries. Yes, Terry Brown wrote, I have 2 12-volt batteries to power the vehicle. So that is typically a 12-volt system. If it's
right, it is not 24 volts. Right.
Yeah, that's 12 volts, and they're just hooked up in parallel. So
exactly. Read my articles on battery series parallel stuff.
I will also say, by calling your dealer and hit the parts department, you'll also find out if you have a single alternator or dual alternators. Some people have dual alternators, like double 220 amp alternators. You get a lot of power off that. You can power easily 3,000 watts or more. So that's pretty cool. Who else?
Here's another question here about. I am interested in the power supply generated by a second alternator, such as the Wave Westphalia model. The second alternator charges the lithium at idle and no generator is needed. Comments?
Yeah, I love those.
I played around with a little bit of that stuff. I will also note that I have seen up close and personal the Volta system, which is a 48 volt system that's built into a Sprinter. Now this is $250,000 van, as it were. It uses a 52 volt alternator, a separate one, with a 48 volt lithium battery system that has upwards of 10. Let's see, I'd say 10,000 watt hours. I mean, and it'll recharge this thing driving down the road in 2 hours. I mean, it's beautifully integrated. It's $250,000. If I go win the $1 billion lottery here, I may just go get one of those. Other than that, I'm sticking with what I've got.
And I just want to comment on that. Those are really great. That's 100% the way to go, because it's a whole separate system that's got a high capacity alternator tied into your lithium, the battery, and the charging systems, and they just run. They sit on the drive belt in the engine, or basically they're attached to the engine, and they just produce power. And an interesting fun fact that a lot of people don't know how much power. So to get 1,000 watts of power uses 5 horsepower approximately. So you think of any modern engine as several hundred horsepower. It's very easy and not a strain at all for the engine to be running and just producing that extra power. So I love those systems. And in fact, any van or any RV that's got that built into it, I love it. Do it. It's a no-brainer, because it'll just give you lots of power, and you would never, I don't see any reason you would ever need an external generator at all. It's just a good way to do it. Why not?
Okay, hold on. I'm going to flip back to my other screen here and make sure I don't kill the audio. Okay, am I still on?
You're still on.
And you're still on. Okay, boy, there we go. Too many darn buttons. Okay, so Terry asked another question. Man, he asked a lot of questions. With 2 batteries in the truck, does it matter which battery you use for a DC to DC converter, the main engine battery or the accessory battery? Do you know, Jonathan?
I can answer. I sure do. I can help you with any question. And by the way, I just wanted to point out, if you have more questions, even beyond this, feel free to reach out to Mike or reach out to info@cargenerator.com. I would love to answer any of your questions, because I have so much experience in this, and I'd love to share and help you with it. So reach out to info@cargenerator.com, or you can call us 800-750-4660. You'll see on the Car Generator website. The answer to this is you want to get as close electrically as possible to your alternator. So in the systems that have dual alternators or dual batteries, you want to look at where your alternator is, and then follow the wire. Usually it comes up to a junction box. It's called a pre-ignition box, which is basically up near the firewall. So just follow that wire and tap into that. The less of a journey that the electricity has to go on, the better. So if you have two batteries, the short answer is look and see which battery, where the alternator wire is going to, and attach it to whatever that battery is, and that's where you'll get the best thing. So.
Okay, so now I've got a question from, this is for me, Mike. With so many lithium, I'm guessing talk about solar generators out there, which ones do you recommend and which ones do you recommend we stay away from? You know, I've got a lot of stuff that I've played with so far. I'm getting ready to put together kind of my Mike's Pick review here in another month or so. So I don't want to go commenting on it. I got piles of these things.
I think this whole extra show, Mike, I think that's a whole,
That's going to be a whole show. Exactly. Yeah. And also remember, there's different things that you want to use these for. I've got ones that you can plug in extra batteries. I've got ones that are just handy to pick up and to run your guitar through for a little sound system. I mean, I got all kinds of ones out there. Fairwind says, gotta run. Thanks, Mike and Jonathan, for putting this live session together. Good info. Well, thank you very much for attending. Let's see if there's anything. Oh, here's one.
Joyce Whetstone. Yeah. Perfect.
If the F-250 truck has a 250 amp alternator, is it imperative I install a DC to DC charger? 7 pins seems to fully charge my 100 amp hour lithium battery. And a lot of this depends on what you're trying to do when you're going down the road. So for example, if you're trying to run a standard 120 volt refrigerator, a residential refrigerator, and you say, well, that only draws 5 amps. That draws 5 amps at 120 volts. That draws 50 amps at 12 volts. Just multiply it by a factor of 10 when you're moving across. So I've got guys that have done this, and 8 hours later when they're going down the road, their battery is dead, the refrigerator's warm, and they ain't happy. Now, I've measured a bunch of these with a regular clamp DC meter. The most I've ever seen is about 5 amps of charging through that. And if that works for you, then that works for you, and it's okay. But other people want to do stuff. I've seen people going down the road. Now, what I did, for me, you may have seen an experiment with this. My 7,000 watt F-150 power boost, which I really loved, and they would only let me keep it for 2 weeks. I could actually hook that up to my RV and turn that generator on while I was pulling this thing down the road. I had air conditioner. I could have the air conditioner and the electric water heater running at the same time in the RV while I'm towing it down the road with my F-150 with the built-in, the 7,000 watt, 120, 240 volt generator. And I was able then to park this and power 2 separate 30 amp RVs off of this. I mean, now this is an $80,000 truck or whatever, but you can see if you're smart. Now these things are really, really coming along a long ways compared to the stuff from 10 or 20 years ago. It is pretty amazing.
I just want to add to that comment of the F-250 with a 250 amp alternator. It is imperative that you install a DC to DC charger, but you're just not going to get the full. You're not going to get the full amount of power as if you actually put the proper wiring and everything in there.
Yeah, so. And you'll burn up the wiring if you're not careful. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions there that I've missed.
I think we've covered most of them.
We've covered most everything. I'm just scrolling through what. Say something profound, Jonathan, or I scroll through there.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We'll aim to do another broadcast about solar generators, and I think it'd be even fun to get some solar generators and do some maybe some demonstrations with charging from CarGenerator or different kinds of things like that. That could be super fun too. So,
okay, I'm looking solar game. Okay. Pretty much. And so let's see from Corey, he just noted in the beginning, I have a 700 watt Renogy inverter, 250 watt solar panel on a 20 amp MPPT charger, 40 amp DC to DC charger too. Yeah. And Sweet. So this is a new thing. I will also note that up to this point, solar systems, there's been nothing in what we call the RVIA code book on how RVs are supposed to be built. and this is part of the National Electrical Code Committee. Guess who gets to talk to the NEC committee all the time? That would be me. So I'm actually a consultant to what they call CMP7, Code Making Panel 7. And it's really, really fun when they call me up and want to say, hey, Mike, what about this? Hey, Mike, what about that? I just love doing those experiments. Is there anything else we need here, Jonathan? Why don't I put our screen back up for a second?
Yep. You can put up that code,
second.
QR
Yeah,
code screen. Jump on there. You get the 5-year premium extended warranty and the discount, and it's pretty straightforward.
Right. And we'll go ahead. You can watch this anytime. Send this over to your friends. This video will be available in replay later. I'll go ahead and make sure that in the comments here, we'll put contact information for me and Jonathan. Remember,
Beautiful.
go ahead and if you've got more questions or you have more ideas on the kind of stuff that we could do, let me know. I love doing this stuff. I have all the technology, even though I occasionally goof up. I am sadly a one-man show here with this. I don't have.
You're doing it really well, Mike. You're doing it really well.
buttons.
You're like the guy with the organ, the grinder.
That's exactly right. We've seen them. We've seen them at the show where the guys where they've got the bass drum on their back and they've got the little jiggly things and they're tapping this and they're playing kazoos and doing banjo. That's me. That's me right now. Kazoos and banjo and all of that. Well, I think that's good for now.
I think we're wrapped. That's good.
This is a wrap. I really, really appreciate all of you guys spending your time. Jonathan, especially you, off to Jonathan for helping out with this. Let me and Jonathan know if there's any future ideas that you want. This is a whole heck of a lot easier than me driving halfway across the country, even though I do like going to live seminars. If you guys have ideas for these things, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. And thank you so very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. I'm going to go have a beer or bourbon or something. Later, guys.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks. Bye.